what has to be concerning about Georgia fans as well, from Georgia fans, would be that they had this defense that seemed invincible, and I still think it's a amazing NFL talent laden defense, but Alabama exposed it big, especially in the pass game. So Michigan doesn't need to win by 17 points. You only got to win by 1 point. Alabama won by 17. They put up 41 points. If Michigan can just take a lot from what they see on tape from that game, you know, Cade McNamara is not Bryce Young, but he's really good. You know, I made the comment last night, and I'll generally say that in this, on the surface, will seem like I'm rating McNamara and Stetson Bennett to be equals, but when it comes out in the wash, let's say they're equals like 95% of the time, something in that range. McNamara doesn't make the mistakes that Stetson Bennett does. And that's the big difference. That's a huge difference in championship games. You know, usually if you look at stat lines from NFC, AFC championship games, let's say, you're going to usually have two quarterbacks that both played well, but one of them got picked twice. And that was the difference. It's the couple mistakes. And Cade McNamara rarely makes those. And Stetson Bennett seems to make it 2 to 4 times every time he plays a good team.
Now, here's the question that I'll have from that, and I think we'll see it play out when the game starts, is that difference in turnover ratio between the quarterbacks, is that a true product of their strengths and weaknesses, or is it based on what they're asked to do in their respective offense? Right, based on who the opponents they're playing, right? It has Michigan benefited. I'm not saying this is true or not, but has Kate benefited from playing in a conference compared to Georgia playing in the SEC, in which most of the time, as long as Kate is safe with the football, it doesn't take a ton of shots down the field, which was criticized early in the season, him not doing, and pretty much, playing, being a game manager, being safe, has that resulted in less turnovers because of that style compared to Stetson? Maybe he's had to take a few more chances in some of those games this year for Georgia, especially against like a team like Alabama. So I'm not saying that it's the case, but I can see that playing out where we're like, whoa. This game is a little bit tight. Then Cade throws 2 picks, right? Or maybe Stetson doesn't throw picks at all if the game is going Georgia's way. And the same thing could happen vice versa. I'm just saying, like, I think that would be an interesting play out. See how those things work based on when the teams meet.
I don't know if this means anything, but I just kind of ran through the 7 years of the playoffs, so we're in an 8th year here, and I think this goes to as soon as you mentioned the SEC, Dre, something clicked, and I just thought, is there a trust in the SEC, and is it founded? Does it make sense that all these SEC teams, and it's generally been Alabama, it was LSU obviously during their one run, and it was Georgia made it in a playoff, but it's basically been Alabama. They've only lost to 2 teams. So the entire conference has lost to 2 teams in the playoffs. They lost to Ohio State a couple times. They lost to Clemson a couple times and never got embarrassed. So the Big Ten has had its up moments and its down moments in the playoff.
That's for sure. Ohio State.
Ohio State had a goose egg. Michigan State had a goose egg. Ohio State won a championship. They got to the championship. There have been really good performances out of the Big Ten and some bad performances. The SEC teams have pretty much, even if they've lost, they've been there, they've competed, they've played well. They showed that they belonged. And that's over the course of 7 years.
Yeah. I think probably your only, I would say blowout would probably be that Clemson Trevor Lawrence, his freshman year. But into or close to halftime, I believe that was like maybe a 1-score game. And then second half, Clemson ended up pulling away. I think 44-18 was the final there. But kind of to go back to your point, Dre, I think Michigan has played the more difficult schedule. because you look at, the teams and to keep the terminology the same as far as quality opponents. I look at, Penn State, I look at Iowa, Ohio State. There's just a lot of there. I think Michigan has had more of the quality opponents. So kind of to your point of, is it a question that, maybe Cade hasn't been put in those positions? I think he probably has been put in that position more than Stetson has this year and has made less mistakes in that, because I look at, Penn
Well,
State, that was
well,
a close game. And
hold on. I
go
want
ahead.
you to finish, but mind you, I don't want my fan base to turn on me. Not fans, my fan base. My fan base to turn on me like, well, what are you talking about? We're better than Cade's better. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm playing devil's advocate as a Michigan fan. Like, if this doesn't go our way, what can be like, why are we being surprised with how Stetson's outplaying Cade if that happened? That's all I'm doing. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Please continue, Desmond. Just want to put that
Yeah,
out
I,
there.
I I just I would be shocked, because really, when you look at it, I mean, Georgia hasn't had a close game out. I mean, really, it was week 1 against Clemson when that was a 10-3 game. Outside of that, they haven't really had a close game. I mean, they've been beating, and granted, they've had some quality wins as well with, I
Right.
think, Kentucky. I believe they beat Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken, but Arkansas, who's a quality team. So they have beat some really good teams, but a lot of that has been them just leaning on that historic defense and the run game. I mean, that, their Uncle Lou said it yesterday that there's been plenty of games where Stetson has 14 completions in the game, and a lot of games. And for Michigan, once we got past really early in the season, the first quarter or so of the season, it's been, Cade has been, he's been given the ball a lot more as far as, the pass game and having more pass attempts. So I I I think for someone who has had the luxury of having leads and having a run game and having a historic defense that Georgia has had this year, like Stetson, he's still. I'm just hard pressed to look at that. If the game stays the way that a Georgia probably wants it to be, to where, the 4 to 5 yards a clip in the run game, and you're talking about a either tie game or close score, I think you potentially could be in some trouble, because that's Stetson Bennett's bread and butter, and really Kirby Smart's is that play action, taking deep shots down the field. But even with that, I'm just hard pressed to see a scenario where, Stetson Bennett is able to lead that team to a win over Michigan. Like, he's going to have it's 14 completions is not going to get it done.
And we saw the impact that, Anderson had, on that Georgia offense. The way he wrecked them in the backfield. I mean, and imagine what can happen if Aiden and Jabo are able to replicate, maybe not individually, that performance, but collectively. Can they get that same type of, those same type of mistakes from Stetson Bennett, right? Because I do agree with Mark on this in the way, well, anybody who has this perspective, really, whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win this game, right? And yeah, they can force Stetson into some turnovers, then yeah, Michigan has a pretty good shot. And if Michigan turns the ball over, Cade throws a pick here or maybe a fumble there, Michigan's going to be in trouble. So, I think that's going to be huge as well.
Didn't Michigan lose the turnover battle against Ohio State? Because of what you just said, I think Michigan, if there is one of these two teams that could lose the turnover battle and still win the game, I do think it's Michigan.
But they were
Because
so
I
efficient.
know
It was
Cade threw the
you only
he
had
threw that
one.
early that interception, like, kind of later,
Yeah,
in that first or second quarter.
first quarter.
And I don't think Ohio State turned the ball over. So I think Michigan was minus in the turnover margin and still, won that game pretty convincingly. I don't know. We'll see, but I want to be very clear. I do give a lot of respect to Georgia. I think they are a really tough team. I just think when you look at all facets of the game, I think Michigan is better. And I said that I don't want to treat them like an Iowa, right? Because I thought once Michigan scored a touchdown,
Yeah, you were
the
you were
Iowa
you,
game was
you were being
over.
a little
And
bit
I
dismissive.
was
You were being
yes,
pretty
and
dismissive.
I
I
was
mean,
right in that aspect. I
you
literally text
were
you after Michigan scored their first touchdown in the
like
Big Ten
12 minutes
championship.
ago
I
in the
said,
first
this
quarter.
game is over. I was like, Dre,
Yeah,
this game is over because I just didn't think Iowa could score. Now I think Georgia can, and I think they will score some points, but I just it's a long game, and you can't have your quarterback in bubble wrap in big time college football games. Like you just can't do that.
yeah,
And I think you saw what with the Georgia Alabama game, you saw what happened when you had to make big plays, make big throws, and whether it's timing or just miscommunication. Stetson, he turns it over. If he's got to throw the ball 30 times, he's due for 1 to 2 interceptions.